An invitation to greatness. In this chapter, we talk about what it means to be a leader. We learn that having a title and being widely recognized as a leader is not what makes you a leader. Being a leader is entirely dependent on the choices that you make and your willingness to make the world a better place. The 3 key points that I am going to discuss in this presentation are: great leaders put themselves out there to make things better. Greatness is defined not by what you get out of life, but by what you give back. And being a great leader is a choice. The first example that the text discusses is Cadet Green. There were some issues regarding the Air Force that Cadet Green had concerns about. They were receiving a lot of bad publicity. He made some calls to someone he had never met before and couldn't afford to pay. He had to get special permission in order to have them speak for free to his graduating class. Cadet Green shows potential to be a great leader because he took the situation into his own hands. He took responsibility not only for the betterment of himself, but for the benefit of his entire graduating class in the Air Force. The author recognized this as a good step towards being a great leader. Our second example in the text was Rick. Rick was at a convention. He donated his time at the convention to help run things backstage rather than going around being a part of everything. He went unrecognized, unpaid, to make sure everything ran smoothly from behind the curtain. The author discusses that a lot of leaders do behind-the-scenes work that goes unnoticed, and typically a good leader won't expect recognition. They're working for the good of the team and not for recognition, and that's what makes them a good leader. Giving what you can when you can is a good leadership practice, and being a good leader means that what you give makes you a leader, not what you get out of life. Our third example that the author discusses is Barbara Stammer. She was hired at a Sonic franchise. She was kind of down on her luck, broke off an engagement, but she still had a strong work ethic and took responsibility for herself. She worked quietly in her organization. She became one of the best employees and began training new employees and taking on new responsibilities and roles from the owner. She had a strong work ethic and a good attitude. She worked her way up and was appointed the president of the franchise. Barbara chose to enforce good habits in her life, and because of that, she became a great leader, even if she didn't recognize it herself. Most leaders don't wake up every morning thinking that they're going to make a difference in anyone's life. And Barbara chose to have a good attitude and have a good work ethic, and these choices are what led her to become a great leader. So the real life applications that I have for this chapter are taking responsibility for my actions, making sure that I am making good choices in my everyday life to put me in a better place and making my life better than it was yesterday, becoming a better person than I was yesterday. Another thing I took away from this chapter was that acts of kindness do matter, that not every leader has to fight global warming or donate $1 million to charity, that letting someone in front of you in traffic or picking up trash when you're visiting a local park is still important because of the influence that you have on other people. And each person that you influence is just one more step towards becoming a great leader. The only disagreeing point that I had with this chapter was the idea that you can't extend an invitation that you have not accepted for yourself. The author is referencing the name of the chapter, An Invitation to Greatness, that if you haven't accepted your own invitation to greatness, that you haven't not necessarily lived up to your potential, but realized your potential and started working toward it, that you can't extend that invitation to anyone else. I think that a lot of people don't realize their potential or their worth, but can still influence and encourage other people to help them. I think from personal experience, helping other people is a lot easier than helping themselves. And eventually, through helping other people, you kind of start to realize that you're not so different and that you're kind of in the same situations, and you can start to help yourself. But I don't always think that you have to help yourself first. I don't think it always works like that. So the main points that I would want someone to take away from this chapter is that leadership is based on choice. It's not just the characteristics and traits that you're born with or your personality. It's choices that you make. Somebody can be born with all the right traits to be a good leader and not do anything about it. I think that people can become good leaders based on the choices that they make, even though it may not have been in their cards per se from the beginning. But if you have a strong work ethic and you develop a good sense of self and sense of responsibility, I think that anyone could become a leader based on the choices that they make. A lot of people may not think of themselves as a leader, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they couldn't be one. The influence you have on other people plays a great deal into becoming a leader. The actions that we do every day and the kind of attitude that we portray influences the people around us. And I think the choices that we make and the influence we have on other people kind of comes together, and that's how we become good leaders. And the last point is that anyone can be a leader. Like I said before, if you make the right choices and you're taking the right steps to becoming a leader, even if you don't see yourself as one, anyone can become a leader.